Dak, we've got to feel for Dak. You know, not easy to win races, right? Like, you don't always have those opportunities. Now, the way he's gone about it is, you know, building through the weekend and then qualifying fastest in semi. Now you got to do it again. So the race format almost comes to bite him in the arse. And I'll take it as a racing incident. You know, my brother's going, are we allowed to ask the question, like, he pushed the front? Are we allowed to ask, did he have enough weight because of these high bars? And the internet might go off on that. I think it was just a racing incident, and that was one of the slickest parts of the track. Now, in hindsight, you can say, why is he not going outside? Why is he not doing this? But I would never go that far. Like, I just think, you know, that line he chose to do, he has to cross the racing track, and that could be where the water runs down the hill. And it was just basically you're asking someone to, like, cross-run over where everyone else rides. So it was always going to be a dangerous line to do at speed.
Yeah, so Mondraker were pitted opposite us, and obviously I worked with Dak, so it was, you know, easy to catch up with him after the race about this, and he was reflecting on it and wondering whether he should have changed something or what had happened. And he'd ridden that line all weekend, so all race he'd been on that same line, and he felt as though the track everywhere else was drying. He'd watched the juniors and he'd seen the wet, and he was concerned on certain sections because of the rain. Because for the junior race in the morning, it absolutely poured with rain. But then it just dried and dried and dried. So, you know, coming last man down the hill, there was no danger of it really being wet at all. But that was probably the only damp patch on the track. And before he could reflect on whether it would have enough grip to do what he wanted to do, he was upside down. And he's absolutely kicking himself. He's furious at himself. And I just think it's a racing incident. I don't think you need to look into it any more than that. I'd say I'd look to that inside versus outside, and the inside is shorter. And if you could really commit to it, it was coming out just a hair's breadth ahead, I thought. And because the end of the outside berm wasn't really very supportive, and it could sort of push you. So there was certainly something to be looked at in that corner. But yeah, I just think it's one of those situations. And if you turn it into something a little bit more and you start asking yourself, should I have had someone go down the track and look at that corner, see if it's wet? I don't know if that helps. If someone's taken a photo and sent it up to you and you're warming up on your trainer at the top and they say, oh mate, there's a bit of mud here, there's a bit of, you know, there's a shiny root. I find that very, very difficult to feed back to an elite athlete, that sort of information, because they're so much better than anyone else on the planet at riding this stuff. You have to be very confident if you're going to ask them to slow down or change their line, because if you were to break down the holes and the deterioration on this track and you were to look at it, you'd be petrified they were going to crash every single corner, or something would jump out at them. So I think there is a balance to be had here, and not overload with worry, really.
No, I agree. That's why I say, like, I text him back and I was like, it's a fair question. That's where you could lead to. You obviously want to find reasons for it happening. But yeah, it's just a pure racing incident. That's a line, like you said, he's been running it all week long. He liked it. And that's what makes him exciting, is he is creative and he does do some different lines.
Yeah. Maybe
he learns from it, or in the future he goes, okay, that's an awesome line to do. But worst case, that line can go really wrong at race pace. But the outside doesn't really go that wrong. You know, you might dab the brakes a bit much or not get the perfect exit speed. You're still in the race. And that's always a fine line with choosing lines. You know, it's like, how much am I going to gain here versus like what could happen on a consistent basis. So yeah, I feel for him. Like, I think he'll just stay hungry. It's an amazing feat to what he's doing, and to be so good in quali and then win semis, pretty damn awesome. So yeah, that is a tough pill to swallow.